Is Senator Ron Johnson. Senator Ron Johnson is, I guess we're going to go to, there you are, Senator Ron Johnson. I didn't know if you were going to be there or not. I'm glad to see you.
I'm here. Hi, Greta.
Before we even get to what was going on with the candidate for the nominee for Secretary of State, I want to ask you one thing. Who's going to win this Sunday in the Packer-Dallas game?
Yeah, you know, it's going to be the Packers. I was at the game on Sunday. It was cold, but boy, that was fun to be in the stadium.
Yeah, okay. Well, that was an easy question. That's the only easy one you're getting. All right. Are you voting for Rex Tilllerson?
Yes, I will. I think, you know, first and foremost, the president has to have his national security and homeland security team in place. I see no reason not to vote for Rex Tilllerson. I think he's a man of integrity, intelligence, great background and experience in the private sector. As former Senator Sam Nunn said, his business experiences, his private sector background, the fact that he has a relationship with Putin is actually an asset. So I think he acquitted himself well today.
Why do you think Senator Marco Rubio still won't say whether he will or not?
I can't speak for another senator, but from my standpoint, I'll be voting for Mr. Tillerson.
You know, one of the things that I was looking to hear more about, and again, we all sort of have preferences going into all these hearings, is I was hoping to hear more on, for instance, Myanmar, because about 6 weeks ago, the U.S. lifted sanctions in Myanmar, which used to be called Burma, and because they were moving towards a more democratic government. In the meantime, the Myanmar army is raping and in the Rohingyas, they're setting their homes on fire. The Koreans in another part of the country, the Christians are doing the same thing. Is that, you know, there are a lot of human rights violations going on around the world, and we're still helping these nations that are actually doing these things to these minorities.
Well, Greta, there's a lot of turmoil in the world. That's why I do not envy any president, any secretary of state their task. But again, it just underscores why it's so important to move these nominations, get these people confirmed, so we can set up a new administration, start really dealing with the mess that President Obama is leaving behind in the Middle East and throughout the world.
All right, what would you want a Secretary of State to do about Putin?
First of all, understand exactly who Putin is and address him and certainly engage with him from a position of strength and resolve. It's what we haven't done. You know, Congress unanimously gave President Obama the authority to provide $300 million of lethal defensive weaponry to Ukraine. President Obama never used that authority. And so that's certainly what Mr. Tillerson was talking about as well. After Russia invaded Crimea, what he would have done, what we should have all done, is we should have allowed and assisted Ukraine to defend their border. We should have provided them the kind of lethal defensive weaponry they needed to deter Putin from moving into eastern Ukraine. So it's really addressing the world from a position of strength, resolve, not weakness, have a strategy of peace through strength, not the strategy of peace through withdrawal that President Obama has deployed to disastrous effect.
Well, how do you compare and contrast a Secretary of State Tillerson to a Secretary of State John Kerry, who will be leaving on the 20th of January?
Well, Secretary of State Tillerson will actually view Israel as a friend and do everything he can to strengthen our friend and weaken our enemy. And that's almost the exact opposite of what the Secretary did in his shameful address, the shameful abstention from the vote, the anti-Israel vote in the United Nations Security Council. We really do need to recognize who our friends are. We need to support them and do everything we can to strengthen their hand, not weaken them.
You know, there are a lot of Jewish Democrats in this country who are not happy with the settlements that are being done in Israel. So they agree with the president in terms of that the resolution in the UN.
Well, it's been longstanding United States policy to recognize that the only way you're going to achieve peace in the Middle East between Israel and Palestine is let those two parties achieve it between themselves with their talks. The problem has been is that the United States has coerced Israel to make every possible concession, and the Palestinians refuse to say yes. Now, basically, the Palestinians have not yet recognized the right of Israel to exist. I don't know how you negotiate with somebody like that. We've forced Israel into an almost untenable position, and now what I think President Obama and Secretary Kerry have done here at the UN, it actually makes it more difficult to achieve peace.
Well, I don't envy anyone having the tough job being Secretary of State, but Mr. Tillerson looks like he's on his way to be confirmed. But anyway, we'll wait and see for the vote. Thank you, Senator.
Go Pack, go.
Indeed, go Pack, go.